Kia ora, everyone. My name's Linda. We've got Danielle here as well. I hope everyone is having a good night. I hope the kids are in bed or you've got a nice cup of tea in your hand. I'll talk about my role. I'm a community service coordinator for Hamilton. And today we're going to talk about well child appointments, what that is, what that looks like. All the bits and bobs. So I'll pass you over to Danielle, who will introduce herself.
Thanks, Linda. Kia ora, everyone. My name is Danielle. I'm a registered nurse on PlunketLine, and I used to work in the community as a Plunket nurse for a wee while now. Thanks for joining the live chat this evening, and we're happy to have you here and excited. And I'll pass it back to Linda, and she'll kind of give us an overview of what we'll be kind of covering this evening.
Awesome. Thanks, Danielle. So well child appointments. If you have just registered with Plunket, you've just had your peppy, you're maybe thinking, what's that? You would have received one of these books. So they are a well child book. And so in there, you've got the appointments and helpful tips and all sorts. But that is what we're talking about. They'll have all the appointments in there and you might have flicked through. But Danielle will go through what is a well child appointment, our core appointments, virtual, all sorts. So we might start off with probably a home visit, because that is the first visit that you will probably have with a Plunket nurse. So Danielle, could you tell us a bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so usually a home visit will be organised by one of the administration staff that will give you a call when your PP is enrolled with Plunket, whether you enrol online or your leave maternity care enrolls you. And so when they organise that appointment, you usually get like a text reminder. I think it's a week before and then a day before. Don't quote me on that. I think it's still like that, the current. And then the first visit is usually organised as a home visit. Sometimes it could be possibly a virtual visit, depending on availability of staff in the area where you're living, that kind of thing, depending on time of year, etc. But mostly it's a home visit for the first visit. So what that first visit involves is a Plunket nurse coming to your house and having a chat around all sorts of things. So the first visit is usually a little bit longer than your kind of usual appointments that follow on. It can be an hour and a half, depending, and it covers everything from like family health, parental health, child health, and then usually weighing and measuring baby as well. And it covers a lot around kind of your birth history, like family background, supports, maternal mental health, family health background, and then assessing like kind of how baby's doing with feeding, sleeping, all that kind of thing. And then doing a weight and measurement and offering any support and advice that you may have questions around at that time. It often occurs usually when PP's around like 4 to 6 weeks of age. But again, that can vary depending on the area that you live also. With the home visit appointment, it's like usually at your home, but of course if there's any changes like address, that kind of thing, that can be arranged, and don't feel like you have to have your house big and span or anything like that. We're all very understanding, and as part of being a parent, especially in those first few weeks of newborn life, it can just be total whirlwind. So don't feel like you have to have all the ducks in line or anything like that. It's absolutely fine.
Oh, that's awesome. I think, as parents, you're always a bit nervous if someone comes over, and when you've got a peppy and you're juggling that, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. You do have to clean, but no, you don't have to clean, so that is good.
For sure. No, not expected.
Yeah. But really, you're just saying that first visit is getting to know you, your situation, not only for baby, but also how you're handling things, and just to get a bit of insight into how things are going and how best we can support going on from there. So once a Plunket nurse meets your little peepee, for that, between 4 to 6, give or take, weeks, then what happens from then on? When roughly would a next appointment be, and what would that look like?
So usually following that kind of 4 to 6 week mark, forgot to mention before, sorry, as your midwife may still be in contact with you at that point, and then usually they will hand over to Plunket or whoever is your wild child provider. And then the appointment after that is usually around any time between kind of 8 to 10 weeks. So around that 2 to 3 month mark. That appointment usually, if depending on family circumstances and if mama feels comfortable coming to like your local clinic. So most areas in the regional New Zealand have like a local clinic that is within your home. Sometimes it can be a bit of a drive just depending on where you live. And any like appointments for mama and pipi, but also any wāra whānau or support people are welcome to those appointments. Same with the first visit, home visit as well. So usually the follow-up appointments that occur at the clinic or wherever it is usually around about half an hour or so. And it's covering similar to that first appointment, but not really covering a lot of that history part of it. So it's following up and checking in, seeing how you and Pepe are going. So again, feeding, sleeping, growth, development, that kind of thing. And then also when they turn 3 months, you do like a questionnaire on development that you fill in from the 3-month appointment onwards. It's called like a PEDS form. And then that occurs those are from 3 months onwards. And yeah, usually you can bring any questions that you have in the Wild Child book. I've got one down there. There's like a section that you can write for if you have any questions or comments that you have come up since the last appointment for Plunket Nurse. So sometimes I know as parents have lots going through our minds. So sometimes that's a good place to kind of reference or quickly throw something down on the piece of paper to say, I just want to check in with my Plunket Nurse at this point. But anytime in between those Plunket appointments, you can contact PlunketLine as well. So it's a 24/7 service, free to call for any pipi or tamariki in New Zealand from 0 up to 5 years old. So your support isn't limited just to those appointments. There's lots of support and available out there from PlunketLine literally anytime, any day as well.
And you don't need to remember that number because it is on your book. For everyone that's going, I'm not going to remember that number.
Yeah, in the back of your book is handy. Yeah, and if you Google it, it's always there as well.
And when you signed up to Plunket, you probably would have got a baby bag and it would have had a handy fridge magnet, which I still
that's a good one.
For my children.
Yeah, me too.
It really comes in handy. So
yes.
You don't have to remember the number. But thanks, Danielle. That's awesome. So that kind of covers off, you've just had baby. Your midwife then kind of transfers over to Plunket. They come on in, learn a bit more about you, kind of your family situation, how we can best support both baby and family. But let's say you needed a virtual appointment. What would be different if you were very rural or something like that? How would that be different to the nurse popping over to see you?
Yeah, so virtual, especially since COVID, has been like quite a common way for appointments to occur for various different reasons. So sometimes, they can be virtual for location or again staff availability, that kind of thing. With the virtual appointment, I guess probably the key difference is that obviously the Plunket Nurse isn't physically there to weigh and measure baby, so that opportunity for like a growth assessment cannot be done. But in saying that, within those first 3 months, the appointments are kind of every 4 to 6 weeks or so. So they can usually tie in between like the immunisation schedule as well. So maybe the practice nurse or GP at your local GP practice may have weighed or measured baby. So growth can be assessed on the Plunket Nurse's growth chart using that weight kind of to give approximate guide of how baby is growing as well. But yeah, a lot of the appointments are in person, but they may be virtual. Sometimes they can occur over Teams, like a video call. So it's like face-to-face over video. Otherwise, it can be a phone call also. And they can be a good opportunity to check in and just see how things are going. And then usually kind of any follow-up is arranged, ideally face-to-face following those kind of virtual appointments.
Sure, yeah. And I know for myself, virtual is definitely quite handy, but if you do want to be face-to-face, But let's say, especially when the baby's not really in some sort of routine and the baby's sleeping, is there any sort of other appointments that we can do that aren't necessarily appointments that you don't have to wake baby up for? You can kind of go when it's more convenient for you.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing as well, is like, if, when we come in, if it's a virtual appointment, obviously if baby's sleeping, that's absolutely okay. Same with in person. Usually more often than not in that first appointment home visit, PP can be asleep because they're in that kind of newborn phase as well. So it can be quite common for the Plunket nurse to visit, and if you don't feel comfortable waking or getting baby undressed to be weighed, then that's okay, because most of the time you'll have follow up with the midwife may have just been, or you'll have follow up with your GP for that 6-week wild child check as well, for that coincide with the 6-week immunisation. So there's enough opportunity to kind of capture that in between those in between that first visit, if there is an opportunity for the Plunket nurse to weigh Pepe at that time.
Awesome. Oh, that sounds great. And one thing, so we've touched on home visits, we've touched on, there's virtual appointments that we can do. And then one thing that we haven't really touched on that some people might know about is the drop-in clinics, which I personally, as a mother of two, found quite convenient because they are drop-in. So you can kind of work around your little babies. If they are sleeping, they've slept longer for a nap, which is normal, they haven't gone down for a nap, so you've given up and gone, I'll just take them out. And a drop-in is literally drop-in. So Danielle can talk a bit more about what that looks like, though, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's another option for Plunket appointments to occur via the drop-in clinic system. So again, appointment kind of layout for your whānau or PP will vary depending on the area that you live, your needs and staffing levels, those kind of things. So with any kind of appointment that occurs, if there is an opportunity to have one that's booked, you can attend a drop-in clinic. And a lot of areas around New Zealand for Plunket will have drop-in clinics available in your area. So if you're concerned at any time, probably a majority of attendance for drop-ins is to get baby weight and measured, to check in to see how they're growing. So otherwise, again, it captures those kind of missed appointments. So those appointments in the book are called core appointments. So if you have missed one and you feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen my Plunket nurse in a while, that's a good opportunity to pop along to those drop-ins. Majority of the time, some of the appointments are quite condensed. It's usually kind of like a 20-minute check-in appointment. And then based on that, then you can kind of on-book a following visit if needed as well. So there's that opportunity there also. And if you ever feel like you don't know any information about the local drop-in clinic, there's a link on the Plunket website where you can find your local Plunket clinic, and it gives you some details for a drop-in clinic closest to you. Otherwise, there's the administration line that Plunket now have that you can call Monday to Friday if you need any appointment and administration, if you've missed an appointment or you need to update your details, because that sometimes can happen too. If you haven't heard from your Plunket nurse, or you are thinking, oh, I haven't seen them for a while, it may be that they may have the wrong contact number, or you've moved address. So in New Zealand, how Plunket nurses are based in different regions around the country. So your Plunket nurse, say for example, that's in Dunedin, and then you move to Auckland, for example, you won't have the same Plunket nurse if they aren't aware that you've changed address or changed details. It's probably worth letting the administration line know, and then they can update your details and get the local Plunket nurse in your new area to get in touch with you as well.
Awesome. And I think if you have missed an appointment, it is totally fine. It happens. Life is so busy, especially when you have little ones running around. So just come on in, call the admin line, or come on into the drop-in clinic, and we can get you back in and sorted
Absolutely.
and caught up. So there's no judgment if you've moved and you've missed some or anything like that. Just bring them on in. And we can get you back on track with the book, or if you've got any, things you want to talk about, then the nurses are there. And we can get baby weighed. I think, especially at the start, getting baby weighed and the height done is quite exciting. So a lot of people kind of want to make sure and see how that's tracking. So that's awesome. So, I think we've covered all the different kind of appointments that we do. And like Danielle said, that can look different with every area. So best thing to do is pop online to our website or call the admin line and the friendly staff will answer. Awesome. And so what we might go into is, I think what we haven't really touched on is like when you go into appointment, you talk about the baby, but also we touched on this before about it's not just about the baby. You guys, whoever's looking after the Pepe or Tamariki has gone on a journey, and they're also coming into, motherhood, fatherhood. There's aunties, uncles, grandparents now, caring for this little one. And so it's how to support all of that. And you can talk about that at the actual appointments and get support for that, which is really common. I think Danielle will agree. So, it's not only for the baby. And there's lots of resources and organisations that Plunket can get you connected with from there. So, that's awesome. What have we got any questions? I'm just having a wee look. Not quite yet. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to pop them up and we will try to answer them the best we can. I guess, so we've talked about when baby's brand new, those core checks. When you look through the book, it tells you. So we've talked about first week. This is actually my son's book. And it's actually quite lovely to look back on because the nurses write little comments and you get little stickers. So it's quite cute. And the time goes by fast. So anything that holds on to, that small window is quite lovely to reflect
absolutely.
on. So we've talked about, so let's say you've done your first year of parenthood, and then it says here that you've got an appointment around about 15 to 18 months. You're going through that toddler phase. What does that, is there any difference? I mean, do we still weigh the baby? Well, toddler. What difference is that kind of check, more that they're a bit older, heading towards toddler, or before school check, or how does that look different? What would the nurse generally ask or be interested in more than just the weight and height? And
so the appointments kind of from like, I guess, 6 months-ish onwards kind of change a wee bit because that's when there's introduction of solids as well, and teeth is also, so that can come into the appointment with your Plunket nurse, and so we check in how baby's feeding, offer support and advice around solids and guides around how to kind of introduce solids, and then dental health and cares around that. And then after kind of one, there's obviously things that come into play with toddlers and like behavior, that kind of thing, chatting and touching on around any kind of behaviors or concerns that you might have with your tamariki. And then also like toilet training comes into that as well. So more often than not in those appointments, it's a lot focused on kind of around how they're progressing, like with their development in terms of like toilet training, solids, development, behavior, that kind of thing. And then depending again on your area, there's lots of helpful information locally, but also like online as well for parents of toddlers and preschoolers also, that the Plunket nurse can connect you in with too. And then the before school check, that's usually done around 4 years old. And so depending on what region in New Zealand you live, that will be done with Plunket. It might be done with your GP, and some regions it's done within like the ECE preschool daycare setting as well. So just depends on who has the contract in your region who does that. But if it is a Plunket nurse, again, it's usually a before school check nurse enroll with Plunket. They'll do that or get in touch for that. And same with your GP or ECE setting if your child attends ECE care as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Danielle. And I think if you're in any sort of doubt with that, you can just call the admin line and they will probably check your area and tell you how that works for your specific location.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the before school check, would that then be the last check for all our clients?
Yeah, that's right. So it's the last core appointment. So of course, Plunket Well Child Provider covers from 0 up to 5 years old. So if there's any support or concerns that you have in between the before school check and them starting school, so when they turn 5, then you're still enrolled under your Well Child Provider with Plunket, so you can still get in touch with your Plunket nurse if you can't get hold of them. Call the admin line, and then they can get in touch with your local Plunket nurse to arrange any like additional support. So that's in between those core appointments in the book. There's opportunities to have additional appointments with your Plunket nurse as well, depending on like the concerns you have. And again, some whānau will have additional visits with their Plunket nurse depending on their needs as well. And then PlunketLine is always there 24/7 in between as well. And the PlunketLine nurses can chat anything from feeding, behaviour, sleep concerns, parental concerns, health concerns, literally everything is covered. So that's always there as well.
Yeah. And we even have now the lactation consultants online for oh, that's just popped. There's the
yes.
number again. Yeah. Awesome. So we do have just one question. We kind of touched on it, but I'll read it out. It's from Emma. It says, why aren't we seeing people after 6 months of age?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Emma. Has a valid concern. So again, depending on the area that you're living, there obviously could be various reasons, staffing, it could be possibly depending on your need of your whānau as well. So there's no like hard and fast rule in any region in New Zealand, like, oh, Plunket's not seen this age above or beyond, below, whatever. So any whānau is still able to get those appointments with their Plunket nurse. So sometimes, again, it could be a matter of that you may have moved. I'm not sure of your circumstances. So the best thing to do is to call their admin number and let them know that you would like an appointment with your Plunket nurse, and they will be more than happy to arrange that. So with those wild child checks in the book, every whānau in New Zealand enrolled with Plunket can get those appointments. There's no set rule on who should be seen and who shouldn't. Sometimes, again, it depends on staffing levels and if the Plunket nurse in your area, depending on their caseload, that kind of thing as well. So there's so many variable factors, but you're definitely able to get an appointment after 6 months. So just reach out and get in touch with us, and we're more than happy to see you, whether it's a setting phone call or drop in. There's always a friendly face, happy to see you. So just get in touch.
Awesome. I hope that clears that one up, Emma. Thanks, Danielle. That's great. One thing that we probably hadn't touched on that some of our clients might notice is we don't just have the Plunket nurse. We actually have all these awesome other staff that are involved in this process of supporting, Pepe's Tamarikis and all their family. And so, do you want to touch on what those are, Danielle?
Yeah, sure. So in Plunket, there's a lot of people under the Plunket umbrella. So in the community, there's different roles. So you'll see your Plunket nurse, who's a registered nurse who's done like a postgraduate certificate in like wild child nursing, and then you may see someone called like a health worker or a Plunket kaiawhina, and so they work in a team alongside the Plunket nurses in your area to help provide additional support for whānau. So depending on your needs, it may look different. It may be sleep support, it might be solid support, behaviour, literally anything, they can support in between those appointments and kind of collaborate with your Plunket nurse in your area to provide care for your whānau. So they do one-on-one, and they also do a lot of group support also. So you may see on maybe your local Plunket Facebook page, or you might your Plunket nurse may mention at a visit that there's like a solids information group that the kaiwhina runs, or information on sleep, or whatever it is. A lot they do deliver like a lot of support and advice, like virtually in group setting as well. So that's sometimes quite a nice way to get advice or support on, for example, solids, and then go along, and then other people are asking questions that you may not have thought of, that kind of thing. So yeah, they work in a real close relationship with the Plunket nurse in your area, to provide additional support as well. And then the area that Linda works in is the like community support services area also. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit, Linda, as well.
Yeah. So my role, it's very broad. I love it. It's basically supporting in any way we can, and that is running groups. Once you're a parent, connecting with other people that are probably in a similar situation is very vital to not only, I think, your health, well-being, mental health, your child's. It's just vital. So connecting those people to each other, but not only that, also my role is connecting you to the right supports. If you're new to New Zealand and you want to find a community and transition into this life, or English might be your second language or something like that, it's just making sure that we're giving you support to do the best you can in this new role that you're figuring out. So it isn't always about baby, and I think some people think, oh, Plunket, they're coming to see my baby, but it's not. It's not only just your baby. This is a big transition, and me and Danielle know that we're mums ourselves, and so I feel you can never have too much support when you become a parent. So if there's any concerns, if you're really struggling with the transition, sleepless nights, struggles with feeding or anything, reach out, and you can talk to a community service coordinator if it's a play group, if it's a coffee group, or talk to the nurse, talk to the kaiwhina. A karatane as well goes through the solids and stuff, and talk to them. So yeah, we in community department, we just support with a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of pardon me. It's a lot of fun, but it's just connecting you to other caregivers and to the community to make you feel not as alone in this new wild ride that you're on.
I love that. And I like that about Plunket, it's like a big wraparound service as well. So there's, so many different services. We don't just, have one service that fits one person or one family. So yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, and every family's situation is different. So I think the way that we care it changes. It will change, to what our families need most. So yeah, we're quite lucky. We do have a lot of different roles in Plunket, but it's to see if we can provide that wraparound service. So I love it. But hopefully, sorry guys, we've just got some more questions. I will read. One of them is just, if you've got a home visit, someone has asked, if you've got a dog, do they need to be put away for the home visit when the nurse comes, or kaiwhina?
Yeah. No, thank you for that question. So I guess it depends, like, on a couple of things. It depends on probably the Plunket nurse coming or whoever is visiting, and then it depends on your dog. So sometimes with the appointment reminder that you get like the day before, more often than not, the admin staff that do your phone or call appointment to book the first appointment will ask if you have any dogs, and then you can have a conversation saying, oh yes I do, and they're like friendly and they're fine. But if you're ever concerned, you could always reply to that text message reminder for the appointment with your Plunket nurse coming to visit at home, to just say, hey, are you okay with dogs? Would you like me to put put the dog away. And then more often than not, if they aren't put away, that's absolutely fine. If you feel comfortable, Plunket Nurse feels comfortable. Sometimes we may ask you to put them away just while we weigh Pippi, because sometimes when we are handling baby, that sometimes, as animals, they can, they're like little mums themselves, they can get protective. So sometimes that safety side of it. But I guess it's just really dependent on the Plunket Nurse visiting and your dog. And if everyone feels comfortable, then they, you don't need to put them away. But yeah, just very dependent on those things.
Awesome. And I think we mentioned it before in terms of, you can have support people there and your family. But I don't know if we touched on that. Everything is confidential. It all stays,
Yes.
Stays there, and any concerns that you voice or you need support with, that is all confidential.
Confidential, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we do have another one, and you did talk about this, a PEDS form.
Mm-hmm.
So we do you give that out to fill out, but what is it?
Yeah, so the PEDS form is Australian based, but it's commonly used in like New Zealand, Australia, other areas of the world. It stands for Parents Evaluation of Development Status. In layman's terms, it's just a way of questioning how you feel your child is developing. So there's questions in the book. I think it's like, I'm trying to remember, just before your appointment, it says like, do you have any concerns about how your baby's moving their arms and legs? Like, do you have any concerns with how they're using their eyes? And as they get older, the questions get bigger. So there's things like, do you have concerns about them interacting with other people, that kind of thing. So it's literally just a way of the Plunket Nurse getting a like subjective guide of how you think your Pipi or Tamariki is developing, because obviously as Plunket nurses, health professionals, we can like physically see them and see how they're developing, but obviously we're not there with you, day in, day out. So there may be other concerns that come up. So it's just a good way of capturing it. And then with those answers that the parents, whānau, caregiver, whoever is responding on that PEDS form, it's like scored as such depending on the question that you get. I won't go into too much detail because it won't make too much sense, but pretty much depending on the answers, there's like a score, and then depending on that score, then there's a pathway that you can follow to get some support or more care around your child's development, depending on their need as well. So yeah, it's just a nice way to get like a parental or whānau caregiver perspective on how your Pipi or Tamariki's developing, and then it kind of follows on from there, again depending on the answers, and it's from 3 months onwards, so you won't probably get it for the first 2 visits with your Plunket Nurse, and then on you get it from 3 months onwards up to the last. They will do it the before school check as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So it sounds like it's just so we can capture as much information to make sure we're getting the whole story.
Yeah, a good holistic picture from absolutely.
To make sure we are providing and all the care that we can.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And what Danielle was talking about in the book with the questions that, whoever's looking after the baby answers, it's kind of like that. So before you go in for your check, you'll have some answers there, and then you can say, oh, yeah, no, he's doing that or not doing that. And the nurse can kind of look over and talk about a few things around that. And it's quite cool. I always love seeing the little charts. They have little charts on here as to how your baby is growing and tracking. So it's a really cool thing, especially when you're a first-time parent, to see, oh my gosh, they've grown this much. And so I love these little books. That's awesome. We do have another question. Why does Pippi need to be stripped off before weighing?
Yeah, that's a totally valid question. So main reason has been that it can give us an accurate weight. So as you can probably assume, like babies wear lots of layers. So depending on like the temperature of the room, baby itself, they may be wearing 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, and then their nappy as well. Depending if that's full as well, then that all contributes to weight. So it just gives us a really good baseline. If baby is naked, there's no discrepancies in the weight. And then because they get a lot of measurements in between at like your GP practice with immunizations possibly as well, then if everyone's weighing the baby naked or with no clothes on or no nappy on, then there's no discrepancies and you can't kind of think, oh, it's because they had their clothes on, that kind of thing. It's just gives us good baseline to follow.
Awesome. And it's probably a good little opportunity that then you can have some nice skin to skin with Pepe afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously depending on the circumstances, like in winter, if they've just fed and then they're like asleep or something, and you're going to see a GP, I think we touched on this before soon, the Plunket nurse isn't going to be like, oh my gosh, you need to get them stripped down, or if they're really unsettled, or, if you as a whānau member don't feel comfortable in that moment of time doing that, we obviously absolutely respect your wishes, and we're not going to make you do anything that you don't want to do with your PP or tamariki. So obviously, you have every right to say that you don't feel comfortable with that, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, awesome. And if you, let's say, life gets busy as well with these books. If you either lose the book or you don't bring the book to the appointment, or you've now got care of your grandchild and you haven't got the book or something like that, what do we do in that instance? If we don't bring the book to the appointment, forget, what happens then? Is it logged?
Yeah. Yes. So 100%. I've done that myself. Even to the doctors, I forget the book, and then I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Especially when you've got 1,000 things to bring out the door.
Yeah, it's like the last thing on your mind. So yeah, I totally get it. If you forget, again, totally, absolutely fine. We have a system that Linda touched on before, that everything that's recorded in Plunket is kept confidential, and you'll get like a privacy and confidentiality like information spiel from the admin team when they're at their appointment, and possibly a Plunket nurse as well. But we have a system that has recorded all the weights, so they're plotted on the growth charts as well, and any information that we provide at that appointment. So yeah, don't stress too much if you forget the book. If you come into one of our friendly drop-in clinics, they can fill in the gaps. Of course, understand if there's a lot of visits that are missed, they possibly can't fill in all the gaps in the book, but they can maybe do the weights and measurements in between, and like fill in the gaps from those ones that have been missed in between. But yeah, if you forget it the second appointment, just bring it to the third one, and we can just add in any missing details.
Awesome. And if you have now got care of your grandchildren or a child, you can just get given another one to get you back on track anyway too. They can hand that one out.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Plunket have them available to hand out. I'm not sure about GPs, depending probably on your practice, they may have them as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I have just looked at the time, and we all know as parents, sleep is so important. So I thought if there's so I thought if there's no more questions, unless Danielle, do you want to add anything? Do you feel like we've missed anything that someone clients may
one thing that we didn't touch on is at each of the, kind of ties into the PEDs, at each of the appointments there's vision and hearing questions as well that we do. So they tie in with kind of how your baby's developing, and the vision and hearing questions, are based on kind of the age appropriate. So you can either do those before the visit or with your Plunket nurse while you're at the visit as well. And then they come in again at that before school check. There's like a more vast vision and hearing kind of questionnaire as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think as well, like if the Plunket nurse and the family that are looking after the Pepe are worried about something, the Plunket nurse can then take that and refer on to a specialist and beyond. So I think making sure that we are on top of all those visits, or we get on top of them, is important to make sure that we're picking up possibly anything that we could support with.
Yeah, definitely. So there's lots of services that Plunket nurses can refer to for ongoing support with PP or your whānau. So there's, if like, for example, growth, usually to the GP, depending on your region where you live, there's like maternal mental health supports, paternal mental health support, everything kind of, in between. There's always that like extra support service that can be provided and referred on if there's any concerns from yourself or from the Plunket nurse. And again, that's always discussed with the whānau, that referral will be made. So there's always conversations and plan, going on around that as well.
Awesome. I know for myself, my son, he went through a bit of a drop with his weight, and we had an extra appointment in after that to see if what we implemented made a difference and lifted that weight. So it's awesome to, and you can get extra visits if you feel like there's concerns and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Danielle, for sharing all your expertise. That's really informative. If anyone at home kind of just tuned in or just tuned in a little bit before, our admin line is the best thing to call if you've got any questions, if you've missed appointments, you're not quite sure, there it is again. Just call up, friendly staff member will answer. No question is a silly question, so just call up and they will be glad to assist, and we can get on top of anything. So thank you for joining us, everyone at home. I hope that everyone is enjoying their Thursday and staying healthy in this winter. It's actually spring, isn't it? Officially, but
and
still feels
now, yeah.
But yes, thank you so much, Danielle. It's been great.
Thank you, Linda. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and we will see you another time. Thanks everyone at home for joining.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a good evening.